Peter. I'm going to call the meeting to order, and a little bit of a break from tradition, Councillor Maxwell, but we wondered if you could open the meeting with a karakia, because we can't find the prayer. Thank you.
E ino I tātou, e te atua whakatuwhiratia mai ki a mātou ngā kuaha o te tika, o te pono o te māramatanga, I tēnei wāinga waikatoa, ko I Ukrati, hoki tō mātou kai whakaora. Āmene. May the grace of God and the fellowship of the Holy Spirit be with us now and evermore. Amen. Kia ora.
Thank you very much, Councillor Maxwell. And when I welcome everybody, you'll notice this morning that we don't have a youth councillor. The youth council feel that they learn more if they could be at committee meetings. So they have to get leave from school to come to meetings, and they think that they'll learn council process far more if they watch committee meetings. So just will note that, and remind everybody when they're speaking, bring the microphone close to your mouth. We still get the odd person saying they can't hear us when we speak. So I'll call for any apologies, and I have one for lateness for Councillor Rotorua Tate. Councillor Gould?
May be an early leaver at 11 o'clock if the meeting goes on too long, Your Worship.
Thank you for notifying that. So will note that lateness and early departure. We don't need a mover and a seconder for that. All those in favour, please say aye. Yeah, you'll move. Thank you. You'll second. Thank you. And we've said aye. Are there any declarations of interest? No. And urgent business? Appear to be none. And we'll move now to the items on our agenda. The first is page 6 in your order book. Do I have a mover and a seconder? Wait, I like to just read it out, just so everyone logically gets the right sequence of the committee meetings. A mover and a seconder that the minutes of the council meeting held on the 30th of March be confirmed as a true and accurate record. You've moved, Councillor Gould, seconded, Councillor Maxwell. All those in favour, please say aye.
Madam Chair.
Oh, sorry, Councillor Kent.
Yeah,
A question?
I have some questions relating to these minutes that I think should be brought to the attention of Council. I had a meeting yesterday with the Chief Executive and Mr. Coley, and drew to their attention the fact that the figures that were given to us to justify the decision to go ahead with the Library and Health Hub, which were approved on the basis that the additional expenditure could be achieved within the long-term plan existing funding envelope, are actually seriously flawed. I have presented a spreadsheet to the Chief Executive and asked him to come back with an explanation to Council, and I would like to recommend that that be put on the agenda for perhaps discussion at the O&M meeting. And
Perfectly happy for Thomas to speak to it now, if you like, about what you wanted.
I also have copies of the spreadsheet that I gave to the Chief Executive that I would like to table.
Councillors are free to table. Yes.
Can Councillor Kent elaborate in terms of, I'll quote you said seriously flawed. Can you, in the context of what you've provided obviously to the CEO and you've given considerable thought to, and I acknowledge that you have done that, can you just tell us where is the major area of concern? Because, I mean, if we have made a flawed decision, we need to
Councillor Sturt, I don't believe that we should be interrogating fellow councillors. I think we should ask Thomas, who was at the meeting, to speak to the issues that Councillor Kent raised, and then he's free to table his paper. Yeah. Thomas.
Thank you, Your Worship. Councillor Kent is correct in that at a meeting yesterday he did table a spreadsheet. Unfortunately, we didn't agree with him that the decision was flawed as being suggested by the member. What we are doing is looking at his spreadsheet and the letter that he's provided to the Chief Executive, and we'll be responding appropriately in due course. And the other councillors as well will be given a copy of our response to the councillors' allegations or concerns.
Thank you. And Jeff, you have something you wish to add?
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. Through you, councillors, my recommendation to you is, as the Chief Financial Officer has indicated, is that we have received from Councillor Kent the material. We will be responding in writing to him, and we will also circulate to you the response that we provide. Could I suggest to you that once you've received that response, you may at that point decide whether or not you wish to bring that back for further discussion?
Be the appropriate process. I think we need to see the substance of the concern and then the officer's response, and then we may have issues as well. And you're free to table your letter.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And just a brief word of explanation. The spreadsheet that we were, the PowerPoint presentation that was used to actually show us that the additional funding could be achieved with the long-term plan was out of balance by $1.6 million. In addition to
that is your view.
In addition to that, the figures used in it disagreed with the figures in the long-term plan by a further $845,000. So, in fact, there is a shortfall of funding of $2.445 million.
I think it's very you've got to be very cautious about tabling part information. We need to be able to look at all of the allegations of concern in the letter and get an official response to that. And I'm not going to allow debate on that today. Thomas, for the record, would you like to speak, because those two aspects were tabled, would you like to speak to those so that we're very clear on those concerns?
Thank you, Your Worship. Look, at the meeting it was discussed with the councillor how it all worked. Unfortunately, the councillor didn't agree with the explanations that were given, so as we said, we will respond appropriately in writing, and hopefully that'll be adequate for the council and the other council members.
And important to get the right to get that response on the record. We move now to, we've had a mover and a seconder. All those in favour that the minutes be held as a true and accurate record, please say aye. Aye. Contrary? Carried. We move now.
I was a little bit confused in terms of of using an alternative process. I wasn't at the meeting. An alternative process in terms of the annual plan process, where later on it states that in the public excluded session where we talked about waste management, landfill management and operational contracts and heads of agreements with Ho Mingi 9B3B, I've got to be comfortable in my minds, Madam Chair, that those decisions or subsequent decisions that have been made since we adopted the long-term plan last year are not fall under the radar in terms of council's significance policy. So I just want to be comfortable that, you know, I don't want to come back here after the next election and find that there's a hell of a lot of surprises in terms of things that are that have occurred because we adopted this. I'm quite happy with the process, and I would have voted for it, but there are subsequent decisions being made that could impact, you know, making that decision is a little bit confusing for me with the implications over the next 2 years. So I just wondered if I could have
Question, are there other items that would be outside of the exceptions policy that
Yes.
might be,
Impact
you
on
want
the
a no
LTP.
surprises
Yeah.
response?
on the LTP and
Yeah.
between now and maybe next year. I mean, you've made this decision based on the information that's been given prior to this decision being made, but subsequent to that decision, like we've made a huge decision on the waste management, I've got to be sure in my mind, and the public are asking, have those factors, are those decisions already being factored into the LTP leading up to this decision, or will they be additional expenditures or, have an impact on the bottom line dollar figure for the LTP? And what they're also asking, Madam Chair, is that if we make subsequent decisions outside the parameters of the LTP, will there be flow-on effects with rate increases in the future? And that's a fair question, I think.
We discussed that at length about the waste tender at the meeting, and until the tenders are in, we won't know. If I recall, that was the agreement. But if it was outside the process, can you assure us?
I think, through your worship, I think Councillor Sturt is making a very good point that what we have to be continually diligent to assure is that we're not making decisions in the absence of understanding how they're going to impact the long-term financial sustainability of this organisation. That is actually a very key concern, and look, it's certainly one that my expectation is that when our staff are reporting back to you, we actually are looking to say, how is this actually going to be funded, and what is the impact of the decision you're about to make on that long-term effect in terms of either our debt envelope or implications around increased costs that may drive through to rates. So absolutely, we should be disclosing that to you.
That is the significance policy, though, that we all signed off.
And Your Worship, you are quite correct. There is the significance policy aspect to this, but equally so, there will be times when council looks to a proposal that may not be significant in terms of its current impact, but may have implications for out year or long term impacts. Yeah.
Move now to recommendations from other committees, page 13, and I'm going to call for a mover and a seconder to receive the report. Recommendations from other committees. Councillor Hunt, seconded Councillor Tapsell. All those in favour, please say aye. It will just pass the motion to receive it first. All those in favour, please say aye. Contrary? Carried. You have a question? I'm going to put each recommendation separately.
I realise, sorry, the page 13, Your Worship, just on recommendation number 4, I did declare an interest as I was a resident of Eastside for 24 years, and can it also be recorded in the minutes that Her Worship the Mayor, the Honourable Steve Chadwick, made a report to councillors on the 7th of April concerning the meeting with the residents of Eastside the night before.
Thank you. I see you're trying to be helpful. Yeah, we'll take each one separately first, but when we get to recommendation 4, absolutely we'll note that.
Councillor Gould has just raised will be covered in the minutes of that particular meeting. These are the recommendations from those particular committees, but the issues, and like I declared an interest regarding the real estate, that will be in the committee meetings from that particular committee.
As minutes come back, you can declare an interest then. Yep, should be. Right, we move to recommendation 1, which was that 2 councillors to attend the 2016 local government conference will be Councillor Hunt and Wepa, and that a member of Te Tato or Te Arawa will also be supported to attend the 2016 conference. You move, thank you. Second, Councillor Donaldson. All those in favour, please say aye. Contrary? Did you wish to speak, Councillor? Yeah.
I see that in the past years, the representatives that attended the local government conference were elected councillors and the CE, and we're now having unelected people attending. Is this going to come out of their 290k budget, or is this additional to their annual budget?
The issue was debated at the time that this recommendation was made, and it was a decision of council, yeah, that it was to come out of their budget. Yes, Councillor Stewart.
Chair, they also gave a clear indication, and I watched it again on the live streaming, that they offered that they would fund that out of their own resources, their attendance to that. They just sought, no, not out of the 290,000, from the Te Aroha Trust situation. So, not out of the 290 council funds. I got the impression that it was outside of that. But this recommendation says that we will support them attending, because there is a group at local government conference that Councillor Waka, who, because she was an elected representative, attended religiously, and I think she headed it at one stage. Yeah, so I think that now we haven't got the Councillor Waka going on a regular basis. She used to go on a regular basis, outside the quota that we normally add, and council used to pay for that. Oh no, that's right. The local government. Yeah, no, you're right. So that's why I think the opportunity is, if they want to pay for it, and they believe there is some benefit for them from that, that's why I've moved the motion.
Seems to be some confusion over this matter. I understood from what Ms Morrison said that it was to come out of their budget that comes from council. So could we just have clarification on that, please? You know, and asking them what did she mean?
We shouldn't be, look, we discussed this at length at the time. We're actually signing off the minutes of those recommendations today, or we're signing off the recommendations. It was my understanding that it would come from the 290k. They did offer Councillor Stewart to meet it from their own pocket, and we said it should come out of the funding allocated for the Te Tatou board. And that's how the recommendation stood. Yeah. Councillor Kent?
Thank you, Madam Chair. That's not my reflection, my recollection of what actually happened. They volunteered to pay for it themselves, and I was sat right next to them. So my understanding is the same as Councillor McVicker. So perhaps we should ask them to clarify it for us.
Jeff?
Councillors, I think there's a bit of a misnomer when we say that there is a council budget of 290k, and that is council's contribution to the operation of Te Tatou. That is not their exclusive budget, because at the very outset you'll recall that Te Aroha had actually put forward that they would also be supporting this board, and that's what they're intending to do. So council is making a contribution. That is not the budget for the board. It is only council's contribution to the operation of Te Tatou. So to try and say that a particular activity or expense is going to come out of this bucket is somewhat misleading, because in fact what they're operating is a broader budget of which council's contribution is only part of.
to gain external funding to attend the Habitat 3 forum in Quito. Do I have a mover?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Once again, I'm mystified as to why this even comes before this council, in that we're given assurance that it's not going to cost this council anything. So when you have matters like the health hub blowout of about 3 million not being of significance, suddenly something that's not going to cost us anything has to come before a full council. Why is that?
Well, I can speak to that because I gave my report, and Councillor Bentley, you weren't here to receive the report or hear it. At the end of the report, I suggested that not at council's cost in any way, but it would be wonderful for someone from our sustainability portfolio to attend the conference, and that's all we're approving here today. Councillor Donaldson.
Thank you, Worship. And can I add that in any fundraising approach or bid, the fact that council supports, even if it's only support in principle, is a key influencer in whether that funding application is successful or not. So it's an important signal to give that council sees value in what's being applied for, and I think that's the essence of what we were passing that day.
Seconded, Councillor Donaldson. All those in favour, please say aye. Contrary? Carried. We move now to recommendation 2, disposal of Victoria Street arterial properties, that the following properties be declared surplus and to be disposed of appropriately. I'm not going to read them all, you can see them up there. Do I have a mover? Thank you. Second, Councillor Vicker. Any discussion? Councillor Gould.
Madam Chair, I realise recommendation 2 on page 14, but there's also a vote saying that the sale of the properties, the proceeds from the property should go back into reducing council debt, yet that's not mentioned on this recommendation.
Councillor Donaldson.
We're only
Vote on.
restating the decisions, the recommendations of committees here. This is not passing the minutes. So what Councillor Gould is referring to, as Councillor said earlier, will be in the minutes of that meeting.
And that's when we litigate it. So all those in favour, please say aye. Contrary? Carried. Thank you. Please note accordingly. Recommendation 3. You so move. Oh, I should read it so that we follow the logic. Local authority election matters that council adopt the random option of names on voting papers, and that the early processing of voting documents during the 2016 elections be adopted. You so moved? Second, Councillor Sarankmo. All those in favour, please say aye. Yes.
There was something, I don't know if it was part of 1, 2 or 3, but I think we were going to send a letter of disappointment to regarding the online one too, I think it is, but yeah, it was a noting. Yeah. And just for information, the Rotorua Energy Trust will be having their elections, and on, what do you call it, online voting is allowed through that particular one, but it's only local government there. They're not having it.
Recommendation 4, the Rotorua Eastern Arterial Designation removal. 1, I'll just read it, that council support New Zealand Transport Agency in their decision to uplift the Rotorua Eastern Arterial Designation, and 2, that the removal of the designation from the proposed district plan before making the plan fully operative be endorsed. You so move, Councillor Sturt. Seconded, Councillor Kent. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Contrary? Division? All those in favour, we'd better have a division and put your hands. All those in favour, please say aye. Against?
So, Your Worship, Council, those councillors voting for the motion were Mayor Chadwick, Councillor Donaldson, Councillor Hunt, Councillor Kent, Councillor Sturt, Tapsell and Weeper. Those voting against were Councillor Bentley, Gould, McVicker and Sarank.
So the motion is passed. The recommendation is passed. We move now to recommendation 5, the revocation of segregation strips at Linmore Junction, that the parcels of land, lots as mentioned, have their reserve status revoked and the land disposed of. Have a mover. Councillor Donaldson, seconded Councillor Hunt. All those in favour, please say aye. Contrary? Note, Councillor Stewart. I'll let you finish. Councillor, now we move to recommendation 6. The new spatial plan, that council endorse the commencement of the spatial plan project and it be progressed in the manner outlined in the report. Do I have a mover? Councillor Hunt, seconded Councillor Weeper. All those in favour, please say aye. Contrary? Carried. Recommendation, Economic Development Services Review, Report Part A. I'm not going to read this all out. Just one, and that council integrates Grow Rotorua and Destination Rotorua into a single economic development council controlled organisation that operates within the governance model and strategic operating framework detailed in the report. You move. Councillor Donaldson, seconded Councillor Sarank. Any discussion? All those in favour, please say aye. Contrary? Councillor Kent against. Item is carried. We now move to staff reports, the geothermal safety bylaw review deliberations, page 17. Call for a mover and a seconder that the report geothermal safety bylaw review deliberations and adoption be received. Councillor Bentley, seconded Councillor Kent. All those in favour, please say aye. Contrary? Did you have a question, Councillor Serene? Weeper?
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. Just on page 23, I think it was 23, there was a submission from Waikato Regional Council asking for a number of things. The bullet point on the previous page, it said, while it applies to the entire Rotorua district, and they wanted to be included, and I just wondered if we could include them in the joint working party, because we do have a lot of features in our area.
My understanding they're on the joint working party.
It's just they're not mentioned here.
Ah,
They're
so
not
we
mentioned here. Yeah.
in the bylaw.
They're not mentioned on page 23 as in the joint working party. It's only got our council, Bay of Plenty Regional Council and WorkSafe New Zealand.
Good point.
New Zealand. So I just really believe that they should be there because we pay sometimes a lot of attention to the Bay of Plenty Regional Council. We tend to forget Waikato, which have a significant,
Yeah.
yeah, particularly in the geothermal
So we
features.
could note, that would be the best way, yeah. Thank you, councillor Whipper. All those in favour, please say aye. Oh, a mover? I thought we did. Yeah, we had councillor Bentley move. Oh. 2, 3 and 4, thank you. Seconder, councillor Gould.
Speaking to the bylaw, I did not take part in the submission process. I was away, but I just want to compliment whoever put this document together and all the subsequent follow-up information, how thorough and detailed the information is, and whoever put it together deserves the support of this council. And I wondered if you could pass that on, Mr. Williams, through on behalf of council. This was just it just seemed a seamless process that is highly detailed, very informative. I mean, reading through William Bain's recommendations on the geothermal accident that occurred, and all the subsequent information and proposed amendments that were outlined by submitters, and most of which have been incorporated, which I also think is a big step forward. I just want that noted, that the staff responsible for this should be applauded for the diligence that they've undertaken in this process.
That's a nice gesture. I understand it was Amy McGregor, but probably leading a team.
Yes, she was the leader.
If you could pass that on. Yes. Councillor Gould?
Chair, with recommendation as it stands, number 4, you've got the 9th of May. Am I correct in saying there's no ramifications for this council between now and the 9th of May, with this report coming into force on the 9th of May?
Well, we'd be...
Thank you, Worship. Through you, I just wanted to be reminded regarding on page 31, item 8, when do we address the fees and charges? I know it's not part of this decision, but when do we address the fees and charges aspect of this?
Through you, Your Worship, that would be an annual plan matter.
Thank you.
Stay the same.
Thank you. Just on page 21, 5.5, it mentions a well identification number is allocated by the Regional Council. Do we keep that as a file note on our LIM reports so that we actually catalogue all those numbers? And also, do at the point of sale for new owners coming through, are they reminded that there will be an annual inspection of that property? Because obviously we've got a lot of people coming to our region that may well be quite unfamiliar with a property that has a geothermal feature on it.
Could you answer that, Joe?
Through you, Your Worship, I believe so. I believe it is recorded on the property file. I will go and confirm that and just make sure that is the case. As far as whether they're advised that there would be an annual inspection, I don't believe that would be contained in the information on our property file, but that would be a good addition. So I'll confirm that we do have to hold the numbers, which I think we do, but also to see if I can get a note from the Regional Council posted on each file in regard to that and what the provisions or requirements are around inspections.
An opportunity, JP, to maybe have discussions with the real estate industry in Rotorua to ensure that, that those particular properties are highlighted in terms of that, because I think, correct me if I'm wrong, and maybe you could have a look at that whilst you're looking on the LIMS and the property files for geothermal featured properties. I think there's already something on the title, so that also needs to be highlighted. So maybe a clause in contracts that there is a geothermal feature highlighted prospective buyers, because there are some very huge financial responsibilities for people who have geothermal features that service other properties that are on their current property. So I just wondered if there was an opportunity to discuss that with the realty industry and see what we could come to make things smoother for new people coming in. Your point is very well made.
That would be operational, though, wouldn't it? Yep. So you note that recommendation? Thank you.